Thank you all for joining us today. If I can just get a quick thumbs up in the chat that we are seeing my screen, then I can get started. All right. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Jason, Imran. Fantastic. Well, I look forward to kicking off AMP Up 2026, and thank you all so much for joining us this morning. I want to get started with something that I think most of us have seen a lot of recently. And we're going to be talking about this for the most part for the next 2 days. This is generative answer engines and optimizing for showing up in these results because this is where businesses need to show up today in order to win, not just in the list below, but in the answer that AI is giving consumers as they search. And so that is what these 2 days are going to be about. And I am so excited to be able to kick it off. So welcome to AmpUp 2026. I am Michael Yules, the CEO of GatherUp. And I want to start by telling you a little bit about what this conference is, what it isn't, and what you can expect. So this conference is going to be a playbook for reputation in the age of AI and in the age of agentic local search, which is what we are on the precipice of and running at really, really quickly. So this isn't going to be a series of sessions that you sit through and then figure out what to do later. It's going to be interactive. And what you're going to experience is going through that playbook live. So each session is going to be a chapter. And by the time you leave, you'll know exactly where the gaps are and exactly how to close them. Zooming out a little bit before we dive in, I wanted to touch on our mission here at GatherUp and what we are aiming to do each and every day. And that is to elevate honest local businesses. We believe and hold dearly that local businesses are the backbone of the economy, are the backbone of communities, and honest businesses that earn their reputation one job at a time, one customer at a time, one review at a time deserve to be elevated. And so we are working really hard day in and day out to make sure that these authentic customer experiences are heard, that they are seen, that they are trusted by every platform, by every search engine, by every consumer, and ultimately every AI that is deciding who to recommend. That is our core belief. That is what we are building at GatherUp. And in this moment, the way that businesses are being found and the way that businesses need to be elevated is changing and will continue to change, especially as we see AI and personal agents exploding onto the scene in 2026. And unfortunately, the honest, good businesses that don't adapt, even the ones that are doing everything right so far, may lose ground. And we want to stop that. So we're excited to go through AmpUp today and tomorrow in order to help avoid that situation for you and your clients. So here's an example of a typical local business, one that would work with GatherUp or any of you if you're a digital marketing agency out there. And this business is Marcus & Co. Advanced Plumbing. And this is Marcus. And he is doing everything right. He should be easy to find. He's got 4.8 star rating. He's got over 200 reviews. He's been in business for 12 years. And he has great service and customers that trust him. Unfortunately, what's changed is that the visibility of his business has lost ground. And that's unfortunately because the rules have changed. Before, reputation was arithmetic. It was simple inputs, more reviews, more credibility, more stars, more ranking. Staying active, you get rewarded. And now, as we transition, reputation is interpretation. AI is interpreting the signals that it sees. It's interpreting sentiment and semantic patterns across platforms. It is reading and engaging with response behavior. It is looking at your listing across platforms and across the internet. And unfortunately, what that creates is problems that you can't always see if you're not paying attention. And here's the scale of what's happening and why it's so impactful. Data shows 55% of Google searches are now triggering an AI overview. And I've seen higher numbers. More than half the time, though, people, when they ask a question, get an answer and not necessarily a list to decide from. And 1 in 2, or 50% of consumers, have said that they use AI search instead of traditional search when looking for businesses. I took a straw poll internally, and this is way higher. It varies, but ultimately, this is the direction that the world is going. And we also have seen data pointing to massive drops in click-through rates when AIO serves answers. And businesses with links that have moved out of the fold, unfortunately, are seeing fewer leads. And so coincidentally, 58%, same number, but 58% of consumers have asked AI to find or recommend a business. That is what's happening now. It is not the future. It is not coming. It is happening now, yesterday, today, and this is only going to shift further. So AI is already building the picture of your business based on a plethora of signals, and there's tons of research going into this. And it's still evolving, but across the board, what we've seen from our customers, from our research, and from the community and industry at large is that there are 6 reputation signals that AI is using heavily to decide whether or not a business gets recommended. And some of these look familiar, some of them are potentially new, but ultimately, the question isn't whether AI is reading you or your client's reputation across these pillars. The question is ultimately, what is it finding? So these are review volume, not just the count, but the consistency, review recency, how recent, how fresh is the content that people are sharing about your business? What are the sentiment patterns semantically? What are people saying? What is the emotional tone? Cross-platform signals, like I said, it's not just one platform, it's all of these different review aggregators and platforms, especially ones that are relevant for your type of business. Listing accuracy, making sure that AI is seeing consistent information across the board, your website and those listing directories, and also response behavior. And so our friend Marcus had some of them covered. We saw 200 reviews, a 4.8 star, but others were not being focused on. And in 2026, when only some of these things are covered, that's unfortunately similar to having none of them covered when a competitor is really leaning in and covering all 6. Most reputation strategies focus on and are built around one job. That's what we find when we talk to customers. It's built around getting reviews. That's what most people think of with regards to reputation. And like Marcus, many businesses pay attention to reviews and review volume. And it does matter, but it is also one piece. And the signals that AI reads don't just come from one piece, they come from the whole puzzle. And so breaking it down, like, how do we approach this? What is the strategy that we can use in order to conceptualize our approach to making sure that AI recognizes us as a business and recommends us as a business? We think there are 3 jobs that are a part of a complete reputation strategy. And so to break it down, we broke it down into building, actively generating proof that is earning trust. This is reviews, and it is also beyond reviews. It's how you behave and engage. And that leads us to manage, which is monitoring, responding, learning, importantly, and improving, taking customer feedback and turning it into action so that you are shaping what people feel and experience and therefore share when talking about your business. A lot of people do this reactively. It's easy to wait until you get some specific feedback but ultimately you have the data if you pay attention and you ask for it, and therefore you can be proactive. And the last pillar is defend, protecting what you've built. Most people don't think about this until it is too late, um, until it has already become a problem. And unfortunately, when you're on the back foot, it makes it hard to respond effectively. So build, manage, and defend. This is the natural structure of a complete reputation strategy that we propose. And these jobs aren't new. Every business that's ever built a lasting reputation has done all of these things consistently. But what is new are the stakes. And in a world where AI is making recommendations from a picture that it is building of your business online, the cost of doing these things well and focusing on one or a few and not doing all of them well is much higher than it has ever been. And the framework is not complicated, but the execution is what most businesses are missing. And that's why we're here. We're here to help elevate honest local businesses, and we're here to make sure that execution is seamless. The first part, build, proactively generating signals to establish trust and authority, and making sure that we establish that credibility with consumers and AI agents. What that is more than just getting reviews. It is a system that is running consistently. It is making sure that your name, address, and phone number across platforms and your website everywhere is the same. There's no excuse for confusing AI. The second is listings and making sure that they are robust, that they are updated. The categories are accurate, the photos are new, the hours are accurate, the service area is accurate, and that offers, which is something that has recently come out specifically within Google, are up to date and being shared. The third part is first-party reviews. A lot of people don't think about first-party feedback as an opportunity to build your reputation, but people are very happy to leave first-party feedback when you ask. And ultimately, that content is unique. It doesn't exist elsewhere. And so when you share that on your website, we've seen it be attributed within AI overviews and adding more context and more new information beyond what the third-party listing site say. And then with regards to third-party listing sites, balanced and diverse signals is important. The topic breadth is key to match use cases that your customers are looking for. And ultimately, that is how you build your reputation. And what Marcus didn't realize is that his listings were mostly accurate, but the review cadence was off. Those 200 reviews weren't necessarily the most robust or the most new, and that's hurting. The second part is manage, staying on top of every channel in real time, monitoring, responding, acting on the reputation data across every channel in real time. Manage means more than watching one listing. It means monitoring all of the platforms. Google, we've seen Yelp, we've seen Facebook, TripAdvisor, and many different industry-specific directories all show up in these AI overviews. And so it's important to move beyond just Google. Second, responding and engaging. It's another signal that you are there and that you are there to serve. Listening for feedback and listening for patterns in what people are saying. You can't necessarily change people's reviews and experience without understanding and improving. And that's another opportunity for Marcus as opposed to just watching one profile. The third part is defend and identifying threats early so that you can act and protect against them and stay on the front foot. Defending is the job that most strategies don't necessarily include. And what that means is actively monitoring for fake reviews before they settle in so that you can act as soon as it happens and dispute them. It means complying with regulations to protect what you've built. A listing suspension or an enforcement letter, it can undo years of work, even if you're just trying to do what other people are doing. Watching your competitive landscape is part of defending your reputation. Whether or not your competitors are, again, playing by the rules or not, you have to know what they're doing before AI does so that you can compete and make sure that you are doing everything you can. And then certifying that your reputation is real and trustworthy and telling prospective customers, existing customers in the world that your reputation is real is a differentiator versus competitors who may or may not be committed to that authenticity. Trust is the ultimate currency. Build, manage, and defend, three pillars that we just went through, again, is that natural structure of a complete strategy. And this is the overarching approach. But it's not phases, it's not linear, it's not build, then manage and defend. It's simultaneous, it's continuous, and it's consistent. Ultimately, you've got to do all of these things at once, and prioritization is hard. We understand that. And that's why we are doing what we're doing in order to help make it as easy as possible. And the businesses ultimately that are winning in AI-driven local search are doing all three of these things from a unified view and building their strategy around these things. So back to Marcus. He was doing what he's always been doing, but unfortunately, the system had changed and the strategy became incomplete, and incomplete in today's world, unfortunately, looks like falling behind from the outside. And that's because businesses approach these things as a patchwork and not as a continuous and consistent motion. So when the build data never informs your manage's workflows, or when the manage data and patterns and information never surface defend priorities and opportunities, they're not a complete strategy and they're running essentially separate workflows and tasks. And so I'm really excited and proud of what we've done over the last 6 months, bringing GatherUp, the transparency company, together and connecting all three of these pillars in one place so that we can help accomplish our mission of elevating honest local businesses and aiming to put all of these things together in one place, all connected, build, manage, and defend. And when review velocity drops, you know it before it becomes a signal for AI. When sentiment is shifting, you see it and you address it before it spirals. When a fake review hits, there's already a dispute and you already know about it and you're on the front foot. So we design GatherUp so that you don't have to choose what to prioritize. You can do everything. And in this story, Marcus was a plumber, but he can or she can be almost any type of business out there. Could be a dentist, could be a landscaper, could be a roofer, could be a locksmith. And the gap between that complete strategy and an incomplete one is showing up in visibility for all of these industries and ultimately in lead volume. And so the window to build your reputation and compound your advantage over time is now. And so over the next 2 days, we are going to go through the playbook. It's not an agenda. Each session is more like a chapter, and it all connects back to this single strategy. And I am so excited about the sessions that we are getting to share with you all, the external experts that we've brought in, as well as the internal team and experts to show you how GatherUp is thinking about these things. We'll start with prompting reputation and review responses with the next session. And we'll also have really exciting sessions. You can see the full agenda or playbook, online. And those will be hosted by people like Michael Addison, who's at the FTC, and they wrote the fake review law. Brad Weatherall, a Google veteran, who will talk about AI's impact on Google business profiles. We'll also talk about the psychological impact of buying behavior on of reviews on buying behavior. And we'll hear from our friends at Uberall about listings management in the AI era and much, much more. And so last but not least, I make a humble ask to please tune in for the last closing session where I will lay out our vision and our path forward, ensuring that we are doing everything that we can to bring the build, manage, defend playbook into one place and make it as executable as possible, while also thinking ahead and announcing some very exciting new things that we believe wholeheartedly will help elevate honest local businesses in local agentic commerce. So by the end of AmpUp, you'll know where the gaps are, you'll be equipped to close them, and you'll know your strategy in whole. And we are so excited to be able to share the time with you and help in our mission and recruit you in joining in our mission to help elevate honest local businesses everywhere. So with that, I'm excited to get to work. Appreciate your time here for this introductory session and look forward to the rest of the sessions today as well as the sessions tomorrow. We'll see you back here in about 10 minutes for our first session. And thank you so much for your time this morning. Just taking a look at the chat. Audio is fine here. Okay. I believe so. Just to answer a couple of these questions, we will be recording this and we will be sharing it afterwards. And so we'll cover those logistics, but you absolutely will have access. And yes, exactly. Thank you, Jason. And if there aren't any other questions, we'll log off and see you all later. Thanks so much.